Hey everyone, happy almost Halloween. Unfortunately, Carrie is not here today, but I do have a very special um, treat. And notice I did not say trick um, because today we're going to be, actually, should you be afraid? Yes, you absolutely should be afraid because we're going to have a special guest join us today, and she's going to tell us about the scariest real estate scams going on right now. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome Vickie Lawrence to our stage. Vickie with Pacific Northwest Title. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. I love the spooky music in the back.
Fabulous. So thank you again so much for joining me. Can you go ahead and tell us a little bit about you and what your background is and stuff? Because you have been in the business for so long and you're one of my most trusted title people around, and I so appreciate all your expertise and your advice when I call, and you're usually my go-to person. So can you tell us a little bit more than what I just told?
Thank you. Well, I appreciate that, and that is a wonderful honor. I've been blessed to be, my background has been sales and customer service, concierge type of scenarios. I've been blessed to be part of Pacific Northwest Title. I did some real estate assistant work for a while, and I was lucky enough to be introduced to Pacific Northwest Title 23 years ago. It's hard to believe it's been that long, 23 years in the world of title and escrow. Nobody comes out of high school and says, I want to be a title officer or I want to be an escrow officer. You just kind of fall into it and everything happens for a reason. So it's been a wonderful journey, and I love each opportunity because I get to work with professionals such as yourself in the world of real estate and lenders, builders, municipalities, and consumers to help them understand a process that maybe they only get to do 1 or 3 times in their lifetime. So I get to do sales and connections as well as help with signings and mobile notary and fill in the gaps on all the things behind the scenes of what we do to close a real estate transaction.
Perfect. So she's a busy girl and she's very trusted. So we're going to go ahead and talk about some scary stuff because you get to see some of that scary stuff. So we're going to go ahead and jump right in to our first topic, which is fake sellers. And I actually had one of these. And you know, I called Vickie up and I was like, Vickie, it's just a gut feeling I had. But you know, broker friends and stuff who are watching this is particularly interesting because there's so much to pay attention to and to watch for. So what happened was one afternoon, I received an email, not a big deal. And it was from a property owner who said, hey, I need to sell my place. And I said, okay. He had vacant land, kind of a flag there sometimes. And he had an emergency and he wanted to sell fast. Yeah, sometimes that does happen, but I kind of sensed a villain at this point. So I asked for ID, which is something I would normally do. But still, there was some stuff I needed to watch out for. Vickie, can you tell me more about what I need to look out for?
You know, I think some of the things that we see on a regular basis is the fraudsters are getting a lot more creative on how they're going about acting as a seller impersonator. So anybody can go on a county record and look to see if it's a vacant land, if they own multiple properties. So I think the biggest thing is anytime someone comes in at you with a sense of urgency, they need to sell now, they have had a family emergency, I've got to sell this in 2 weeks, I only want a cash deal, I want the funds wired into my account, and I have my own mobile notary. These are red flags all over the place because they want everything like yesterday, and it's not realistic sensibility in all those avenues. So we do see those come through. And, you know, after the pandemic, it was not uncommon to see these fraudulent listings come up for vacant land. Well, they've gotten a lot more creative. Their grammar is a lot better because they're using AI and Chat GPT and all those things to create content.
That was a definite flag for me on that one.
That was a huge flag right off the get. But now they're getting more creative about it. So you can't just judge a book by its cover now. But again, there are certain verbiages like ASAP, quickly, I'm not available by my phone, but please email me. Use WhatsApp. You know,
WhatsApp always.
That's always a red hot minute too. And they can't be bothered and they don't always answer the phone. You know, so, and there's no voicemail and they're delayed, but then when you email, they're Johnny on the spot. So there's just a lot of red flags that come up that we see. But again, like I said, it's not just vacant land. Now it's people that have second homes, people who are renting their homes, investor properties that aren't either looked at on a regular basis, and they're finding other avenues. They're also doing fraudulently trying to take wire payoffs for us doing mortgage payoffs at closing. So they're getting more creative on how they get in there and hovering over your information.
Okay. And the other thing too, like I said, I normally ask for ID, and what I saw was like, I think the person was from California, and it was like the capital C, the little A. I mean, there's little tiny minor things, or the website's just not quite right on the proof of funds, or whatever the situation is. There's a lot of little details, and you really got to be aware of those. But yeah, it was a pretty interesting trick. So
and that's a key element too, Nikki, is, I have agents say, well, I got a copy of their ID, and I spoke to them on the phone. It's like, well, you can be anybody you want to be on the other end of the phone, and you can buy fake IDs online or create your own ID. So it's like, we do have a tool that we can use through Certified that we can scan in a front and a back of an ID. The client has to do it, and the system can tell if it's a fraudulent ID or not. Perfect. So, it's one of those things, and using Forewarn and a couple other services that we have out there can kind of help eliminate some of those. So for our agents who are watching, know that you do have some resources in your tool belt as well.
Yes, I like Forewarned. It's nice. Okay, so Vickie, have you ever had a story like that where you had something like that happen, where maybe it got passed, or anything that you can share where, like, a horror story you've heard? Probably not you guys, since you guys are so on top of it, but
I will tell you, fraudsters don't discriminate how well you run your business or who you are or whatever the case may be. So we've been very fortunate, knock on wood, that we have had to do one payout. But that was just on a payoff, but we were able to retrieve it. We figured it out and we covered it. But I think we've had a couple instances that were very scary and could have turned out ugly. But we were able to stay on top of it, because we do often do a lot of training through our IT security and our insurance companies that we have on fraud and losses. So one of the big ones we had a transaction that we were closing, and it was a regular 24-day closing type of scenario. It was a retired prosecutor, and another one, he was a physics science teacher. So again, people with high intellect, all the things. But like I said, fraud does not discriminate who you are and what you do for a living. So we'd had a transaction open, and from the get, there was a fraudster that was hovering over their email and was watching their circumstance, their web activity, finding out what they're doing. So they were able to realize that these clients were trying to buy real estate. They were hovering over, they were able to see the closing dates, all the time frames, and all these items, that the email correspondence that they were hovering over. And when the file was opened, they received this random email from somebody who they thought was one of our closers, but this fraudster did a copy and paste from someone in title, someone's escrow name, and created this random email that was just off by one lowercase letter that looks like a T or an I, and created a different username, and was corresponding and copy and pasted our logo, and was telling them, congratulations, transaction's closing. We're going to rush closing. We need to have your funds in by the end of the week, no later than 2:00. Here's the account number you need to send it into. Mm-hmm. Again, need to remind you, if you're only buying real estate once or 3 times in your lifetime, sometimes you forget the scheduling. So the client questioned it. It's like, wow, okay, why is this closer asking me for funds now? We just opened it 3 days ago. So they responded back, we're not ready to give funds yet, but keep me posted when we absolutely have to get the money in. So they kept corresponding, but then at the same time, they're having a phone call with our team about needing intake agreement and beginning file information. And they didn't think to say anything about, why are you asking me for funds? But you need this information from me too. So it was kind of weird, but then it happened again 2 weeks later. Mm-hmm. So the client was like, okay, well, I guess we're getting close to closing. We'll wire the funds, which they'd received all of our information from the beginning. Don't send funds without having a verbal confirmation, confirming how many funds need to come through. They just were in the process because they were excited about getting the transaction closed. Yeah. So they sent the funds, and then the fraudster emailed them back. It's like, where's the money? You said you sent it. We haven't received it yet. And they were acting like one of our associates. So the customer was getting kind of angry. And they sent another email 2 hours later. We still haven't received the funds. What's going on? So the buyer called the office, asked to speak to the escrow unit, and they're like, and she was kind of angry with us, asking, why do you keep pressing me? I sent the money. Well, come to find out, the escrow team let them know. It's like, we're sorry. We have not asked for funds. We're not even ready. We haven't even balanced with the lender.
Wow.
This is not us. So luckily, we were able to clear the air, let them know what had happened. Ironically enough, the bank that they banked with was who we have our trust account with. So we were able to put a stop on the funds. It went to a local bank and the funds were still there. So they were able to freeze them, alert the account, the wire didn't get transferred. But then once that happens, though, you have to remember, they can't arbitrarily just send it back to you. They have to do a fraud process, claims that something like this has happened, and then they have to investigate it before they can submit the funds back. So luckily, these clients actually had that additional funds that they sent in savings so they can pay for it and still close on time.
Wow.
But it's a prime example. It's like anybody can be anybody they want to be. They can copy and paste, they can post these things, they can hover, and we have systems in place to truly try to prevent these from happening the best we can. But people need to be diligent, to be calm, pay attention, slow down, ask questions. And if it doesn't feel right, trust your gut.
Yeah, definitely.
That could have been an ugly scenario, but it did wind up working out, and they wound up getting their money back as well. So.
Well, that's great news, and that's super eerie information. But so this next one is one that I actually saw on TV, and I hadn't heard a whole lot about. I've done a little bit of research since then, but my understanding is this is a type of fraud when someone goes in, like you own your home, and somebody else will come in, and they will go in and transfer the deed to their name and out of your name. And usually the homeowner doesn't even know that this is happening until they either try to sell or do something or whatever. Vickie, do you have any information about this one?
Well, this one is one of those scary little scenarios because unfortunately there's not one foolproof product that can stop anybody from recording anything over at the county. The auditor's office does not police that. That's not what their role is. Their role is to transfer things and get them recorded. The other caveat is that if a title company is involved in a transfer where a fraudulent deed has been recorded and a transfer of a property has been done, whatever title company has insured that property will be responsible for the losses and the claims for that property when it records. So again, it's one of those scary things that unfortunately fraud is out there, IDs and transfers. And if you have parties that aren't paying attention and aren't doing their due diligence to make sure that they've got the appropriate clients and the transfer, it does happen. How can homeowners monitor the county records and be alerted of this? So your local auditor's office and treasurer's office do have links on their website that now make it available for homeowners to subscribe to be notified if anything is recorded or transferred against their property or their name. Anybody else can do it as well on your property or not, but if you put the address in and ask for to be notified if anything is tagged against your property, you will get a notification, which again, it's after the fact, but at least it allows you the opportunity to be proactive, to get in there, contact the county, contact the title company who insured the property or whoever notarized the documents. That information can be pulled up through recorded documents, and start doing your due diligence to work backwards to try to get that taken care of and get all matters cleared up. So,
that's really scary. How long has this been happening? Do you know, like how?
It's been happening for years, but I think it's just more now prominent since the pandemic because it became an easy target for people to make money because people aren't paying attention. It's been in their family forever. It's been a vacant piece of land. No one's going to be able to build on it, but people looking to build the American dream and all the things, it just, it happens more and more. And when you have a changing market, people want to be able to be relevant in the real estate market. So it has definitely blossomed significantly since the pandemic.
Okay, good to know. Okay, and this last one is wire fraud. And I think this is probably one of the most terrifying of all, because I've heard people have lost like their whole life savings in this. Like they're trying to buy a house and it's supposed to be the happiest moment of time. And it's because of a wire transfer. I mean, they transfer the money wrong, kind of like what we were talking about earlier, and it goes to the wrong account. I know, like, one of the things I do as a real estate broker is I have like a lot of there's like a standard form. I have a video I send. I make sure they get your information again. I mean, I try to make sure my clients see this 3 or 4 times, because I know that's usually what it takes to sink in and to understand. And I always tell them too, if there's any question, or even if you don't have a question about it, you get your instructions, or you get an email about it after the fact or something, just to call and check with me, because I'm always happy to call and double check. So what are some other things that buyers can watch for?
Every title company is a little bit different. But if you are involved in a real estate transaction per se, because that's kind of the niche that we're in right now, when you're working with a title company, they should be sending out opening information right off the bat on the transaction, to be mindful of utilizing secured portals. Everyone hates registering and getting into a new portal and remembering our password, but our industry is hit very heavily in financial institutions. So you're going to find more heightened security requirements to create passwords and communicate through those secured portals. So your non-public information doesn't get out there for the world to see. And unfortunately, that is a thing that more and more title companies are doing, because if we do close a transaction, we are held liable for any losses and damages. So making sure that when you're opening a transaction, you are communicating and you're sending non-public information through a secured portal and any attachments, especially with anything that has account number, social security, date of birth, any of those things that can be used against you out there in the world of fraud. The other thing is our company, we make a statement that we put that out there, that we use the secure portal Qualia. We also use a company called Certified. So any wires coming in and going out, the clients have to register through Certified to acknowledge that person is where they say they are, the contact number, they get a security code, the code goes back, and then we can send them wiring information. In regards to you, and that's for earnest money, but if you're receiving proceeds at closing, we want to make sure that those funds go into the right account and we don't have some individual acting as a fraudster and giving us a different account number. So they have to fill out NPI, so non-public identification information, and we send them the information through Certified. They get a security code, then they give them 3 knowledge-based questions. So maiden name, social security, date of birth. Have you ever lived at 1524 Micklebury? Did you own a B210 in 1985? Only things that you would be aware of attached to your information in that account. Once you've had that approval, then it will send you the information so you can submit your wiring instructions. So that's another way of self-protection. And then we don't allow people to use their own notaries anymore. So part of our services of what we do, back in the day, you could say, I'm going to go down to the post office or FedEx store, and I'm going to get a notary. We don't allow that anymore, just because of so many people. You can buy a notary stamp online. No one's going to know any difference. So we make sure that we use our remote online notarization services. We also use vetted notary service companies. And we just let clients know that, unfortunately, it's something that we would rather eat the cost of having a mobile notary taken care of versus having to shell out $750,000 because we had a fraudulent notary and the property got siphoned. So I think the biggest thing is, if you're receiving an email and someone's using quick turnaround timeframes, rush, they're pushing you, they're using strong, pushy words and time sensitive and all these things. In the world of real estate, you're going to know if your closing is moving up because you're going to have a conversation with your agent. You're going to be touching base with your lender and knowing that the only person that's going to send you wiring instructions is going to be that title and escrow. Yep. And we'll never change your wiring fees in the middle of a transaction. they stay the same. So if you receive any of those information, that's when you pick up the phone and call your title company main line, and you start making conversations before you schedule that wire fraud.
Yeah, I always say just call me and I'll call and verify. I mean, like, let me call for you and just make sure that they sent you, or if there was a change that, let's double check this. Let's just make sure, because I don't want to never assume that it is. So those are a lot of scary stories. Have you ever had a client that has actually had their savings go away, or have lost that amount and not able to get it back? Because I heard once it's gone, I mean, it's gone. And so it might not be with you guys specifically, but I'm sure you've heard it because of the industry. So
yeah, no, it in the industry, yes, it has happened, and it's happened more than you can even imagine. We've been fortunate, but yes, no, and it happens here locally. It has happened multiple times where you have individuals who are coming in and they're doing money laundering type of things, where your buyer and your seller are the same individual coming in, doing a quick cash closing. They do a large lump sum earnest money receipt cash, wire, and then 5 days later cancel the transaction and get it converted back into good funds. Or you've got people with a quick closing, they want it going through, and then guess what? They're out there $550,000. We realize it's fraudulent, and then you're back into a claims. That's when your title insurance, it goes to the title claims department. Then they do an investigation, people attorney up, and then it's a matter of figuring out, okay, was this truly negligence on behalf of what parties? Then you go to court, and in that situation, the title company can be sued. The lender can be sued if there's a lender involved based upon the circumstance, and the agents can be sued as well as the seller if the buyer feels that they were privy to any of the information as well. Also, if they can find them. So has it happened? Yes. Does it happen more than we all would like to admit? Yes. Because if you're not using secured portals and you're not validating information, you're not using secured wire transfer protection services, information, it can happen. And it happens all over the place, even here in little Mayberry, Kitsap County.
Okay, so what I've learned today is it's really important, if there's any doubt at all, if you find or you hear something, I mean, like if you're, if for instance, if you're checking your records and something pops up, I mean, a lot of times you look at stuff and you don't even really pay attention, like are the names right, that kind of stuff. Check that information out. Make sure that the email's exactly what it said. Don't be afraid to pick up that phone, and that's the best way. And don't call the number they give you on the email. Call from Google them, call directly. But talk to your title company. Call them directly. Don't email. Pick up the phone, call them who you've been talking to anytime you're in doubt. You guys, I want to say a big thank you to Vickie. I mean, I so appreciate you coming in today and talking to us, because this is such an important topic. It's scary, but it doesn't have to be if you're really trying to watch it as much as you can and do the right things, and having the right team is super important. So thank you so much today. You guys, as always, you can reach out to Carrie if you've got questions, or I'm obviously on there too. Thank you so much. Have a happy and safe Halloween. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.